Grange, you could find 4 guys 5 miles of your house, and you'd beat that Italian team. I mean, you just would.
But they beat the Americans.
I agree.
Well, they beat the Americans, and yeah, the Americans' response has been, well, we didn't have our best team over there. And there's some truth to that. But I think what's a little different is Canada, I'm not going to say Canada didn't have their best team, but the pool of talent that Canada chooses from for these events now is so deep that, you know, there was at least 10 kids who would have been very strong candidates to be on what was already obviously a very, very good team. And so, you know, the U.S. argument that, you know, we didn't have our best over there, you know, it doesn't carry quite as much water.
Is this a true test of what's coming, that the National Basketball Association will have a lot more Canadian content in the future?
I think so. I mean, you know, what you're seeing now is, you know, just this kind of echo generation of talent. And what's really interesting is you look at that roster and, you know, I did a feature for Sportsnet magazine a couple of years ago on RJ Barrett, and it was really almost more about his dad, Rowan, who is, you know, one of the top executives with Canada basketball. And you know, at the same stage of his development, Rowan Barrett Sr., you know, he had zero exposure, zero development. Like, he basically he'd been to a couple of basketball camps, and he played high school basketball. And you know, he ended up being a Division I player and you know, got a sniff at the NBA, never quite made it, but had a great career in Europe. Where, in contrast, his son, step by step at the same stage, has had elite-focused, expert basketball development, and right from about the age of 12, not to mention what Rowan Sr. might have done with him on his own. And so, you know, with a similar package of talent, he's maximizing it, and as a result is the best player in the world his age, almost without doubt. And that's the story throughout Canadian basketball. And there's other kids on that roster who are kids, you know, people familiar with Toronto high school basketball. You know, Noah Kirkwood came off the bench. His dad, Arthur Kirkwood, was a big star at Jarvis Collegiate. But, you know, the son is playing internationally for Canada. Those opportunities didn't exist at the same stage, and that's what's different. And then you've also got the NBA example of all these kids over and over making it to the league. And right now, there's no reason that Canada is not going to be the second most prolific provider of talent to the NBA after the United States for years to come.
Michael Grange, Sportsnet's own, joining us on Brady and Price, Sportsnet starting lineup. We'll get bigger picture in a sec with the 19 FIBA World Cup, which has direct impact more than ever on who makes the Olympics. 2 things on Barrett. Does he project at this age as a better NBA talent than Andrew Wiggins did at 17? That'd be really saying something. And what about a college commitment? Do you look and go, that's an obvious Calipari player at Kentucky? Or not that Kansas is some kind of right-wing turn, but that's where Andrew Wiggins chose to go to play for Bill Self. Or is it just obvious that Barrett will be at a huge program?
Yeah, no, he's absolutely in the same strata as Andrew Wiggins was at the same stage. In fact, you know, technically, RJ Barrett is going into his grade 11 year at Montverde Academy in Florida, similar, but he has the option to reclassify, which is, you know, do the necessary coursework and make this upcoming year his senior year and be in college next year. That's the exact same situation Andrew Wiggins was in. And he did the reclassification, ended up in Kansas and in the NBA the year after. Rowan Barrett, I can't say this for sure, but I'd be very surprised if he doesn't do the reclassification. So this time next year, he'll be heading to a major program, and it's going to be Kentucky, Duke, Kansas, one of those top 3 or 4 programs that always get players like him. And the year after, so the summer of 2019, he will be, a certain NBA lottery pick.
Elliott wants him at Gonzaga, but I don't think he's going to get his wish.
Go to Butler.
That's not going to.
He'll be a certain NBA lottery
Iowa
pick, and I would never sit here and say he's going to be the number 1 pick overall because it's outrageous. But it wouldn't surprise me either. And as compared to Andrew, it's probably not completely fair, but you might say Andrew's got just just because Andrew might be the most athletic player in some respects there is. RJ's close, but what he does have, I think, at the same stage is he's a more polished player, and he's got a motor that really stands out on stages like this. So I think they're a little bit different players, but there's no reason they can't achieve the same level of success.